A nation does not fall because it lacks strength, but because it loses the presence of God in its midst. A golden calf can be forged in a few hours, yet it is powerful enough to misdirect an entire lifetime. The desert that once witnessed shouts of joy when the Red Sea split now witnesses songs and dancing before a lifeless idol. But the breaking is not the end, because God does not rebuild only with thunder or punishment. He rebuilds with calling, with obedience, and with hands filled with the Holy Spirit, turning what was once misused into a place of worship. You will not only see a tabernacle raised, you will see a people healed as the glory of God comes down. Your support is the motivation that helps us continue, and Fidelia Bible Stories is truly grateful and deeply appreciative. And now please join us as we follow the story of Bezalel and Oholiab. The Sinai wilderness in the daytime was like a furnace. Sunlight swept over every tent, every weary face. Night was different. Cold wind crawled through the seams of cloth, slipped under the wooden stakes of the tents, and forced people to hold one another close to sleep. But the cold was not as frightening as another kind of cold, the chill in the heart, when people were no longer sure that God was still near. On the mountain, the wind did not blow like it did on the plain. It struck straight, cold and dry, as if sweeping every illusion off the rock. Thick cloud wrapped around Sinai, heavy like a curtain. Inside that curtain, Moses stood alone before holiness so pure that if a human heart tilted even slightly, it would fall apart like sand. He had come up to receive words, to receive direction, to receive a covenant. But while the people waited at the foot of the mountain, waiting turned into fear. Fear turned into demands, and demands turned into an idol. On the first day they waited. By the 10th day, they began to talk. Then whispers became loud voices, and loud voices became pressure. We don't know what happened to him. We need a God bound to lead us. Deep down, it was not only a desire for a symbol, it was fear of moving forward without something they could see. Aaron was surrounded by tense faces. He heard them speak like they were giving orders, and instead of pulling them back into reverence, he gave in. Gold was taken off earrings, bracelets, rings, necklaces. Things that had glittered when they left Egypt like trophies of victory now poured down like a hot rain. Fire burned, metal melted, a mold was made, and the golden calf rose up shining and silent, yet stealing the honor that belonged to God alone. They sang, they danced, they called it the God who brought us out of Egypt. The desert has no walls to hold sound, so their celebration carried far. But on the mountain, God already knew. Within the cloud, the word came as swiftly as a blade, not to threaten, but to rescue them from a deeper fall. Go down at once, because your people whom you brought up out of Egypt have corrupted themselves. Exodus 32:7. The words "go down at once" were like an invisible rope pulling Moses from the summit. He held the 2 stone tablets, not merely stone, but words carved by holiness itself. He went down rocks, shifting beneath his feet, wind striking his face. The lower he descended, the clearer the sound became. Not the sound of prayer, not the sound of trembling reverence. It was singing laughter shouts. Joshua met him on the way and spoke quickly.
"There is the sound of war in the camp."
Moses stopped, listened, and answered.
"It is not the sound of victory, nor the sound of defeat. I hear the sound of singing."
When they drew close, everything lay bare under the desert sun. In the middle of the camp stood a golden calf, shining silent, receiving the acclaim that only God deserves. Around it, people danced. Jewelry that had been spoils when they left Egypt had been thrown into the fire and reshaped into the form of a false promise. And the most painful part was that they called it the God who had led them out. Moses did not only see an object, he saw betrayal. He saw Aaron. Aaron stood there, not quite like a mastermind, but like someone who had let the crowd push him past the boundary. Moses held the tablets, his hands trembling with both anger and grief. Then the tablets shattered against the rock. That sound was not only stone-breaking, it was a dream, crushed in front of an entire people. The celebration turned into silence. They stood frozen, as if waking from a drunken trance. And the most frightening thing was this: they did not know whether God would still go with them. When someone has betrayed trust, the first fear is not punishment, it is abandonment. Moses went straight to Aaron. He looked at him for a long time, then asked,
"What did this people do to you, that you have brought so great a sin upon them?"
Aaron stammered,
Please Please don't be angry! They pressured me! They brought the gold! I threw it into the fire! And out came this calf!
That was his excuse, but excuses don't forge idols, choices do. But sin does not appear on its own. It is forged by fear and compromise. And that night, the whole camp sank into a deeper fear than the cold wind. Not fear of punishment, but fear of being left behind. Moses went up the mountain again, this time not to receive, but to plead. He stood between holiness and betrayal, like a man standing between two cliffs. The words he spoke were not meant to sound beautiful. They were meant for survival. He asked for forgiveness. He begged God not to abandon his people. He pleaded for God's presence to return. And the astonishing thing about God is that he does not only judge, he also opens a path for a people to turn back, not by erasing memory, but by restoring order. He spoke of a holy place in the middle of the camp, a center so their hearts would not wander anymore, a tabernacle where worship would not be built on chaotic emotion, but on obedience and real presence. But the tabernacle did not fall from heaven. It needed materials, it needed craftsmen, and here is what makes the story so striking. God chose to save a nation not only through a prophet, but through an artisan. His name was Bezalel. He was the kind of man who spoke little, but when he began to work, the space around him felt solemn. And because of that, he also knew the greatest fear of a craftsman, doing it wrong. If you build a chair wrong, you can fix it. But if you do what is holy wrongly, the heart trembles. One day, Moses summoned Bezalel. Inside the tent of meeting, Moses looked at him for a long time, as if weighing whether he was placing too heavy a burden on a pair of shoulders. Then he spoke without decoration, like reading a sentence already carved in stone.
The Lord has called you by name.
And Moses continued, his voice firm, as if fastening the truth in place. He has filled you with the Spirit of God, with wisdom, with understanding, and with knowledge. Exodus 31, 2-3. Bezalel looked down at his calloused hands, and it felt as if a door opened inside his chest. He was still a craftsman, but from that moment on, his skill was no longer merely a trade. It became a calling. He faltered for the first time, unsure of what words were right.
Moses, I only know how to make things. Can I carry something holy?
The one who calls you will give you what you need. You only need to do exactly according to the pattern.
Then Moses called another man, Oholiab. Oholiab understood color thread and how beauty can lead the heart into reverence rather than showmanship. When Oholiab stepped in, his eyes were calm, but there was a brightness in them, the light of someone who had heard a call from far away. Moses spoke of him with a single line, "In the hearts of all that are wise-hearted, I have put wisdom." Exodus 31:6. Oholiab turned to Bezalel and said like a pledge,
I will follow you, and we will do it exactly according to the pattern.
Bezalel nodded, brief but like an oath, just as the Lord commanded. But building the tabernacle required materials, and where were the materials? Right there in the camp of those who had used gold to forge an idol. That paradox became a mirror that healed, because now what had been misused would be brought back to its rightful place. Moses called the people to give not by force, not by bribery, but by the stirring of the heart. And they began to bring gold, silver, bronze, fine linen, blue, purple, and scarlet yarn, tanned skins, acacia wood oil, spices, and precious stones. What they had used wrongly, they now brought as a confession, spoken not by mouth, but by action. A young man set down a small pouch. Inside were scraps of gold. He said to Bezalel, his voice tight with shame,
I threw my wife's earrings into the fire that day. I can't take it back. This is what's left. Please use it rightly.
Bezalel looked at him and answered briefly, but like release,
God can turn what remains into a beginning.
They brought so much that the craftsmen had to report it, and the command went out, bring no more. The desert was a place of lack, but when hearts truly turned back, there was abundance. Then the work began. The steady sound of hammers, the sawing of wood, the tapping of chisels, needle against fabric. Those sounds were not glamorous, but they carried power. They pulled the people out of the chaos of sin and into the rhythm of obedience. Bezalel focused on every detail. The acacia wood was planed, straight overlaid with gold without gaps. Every base, every ring, every crossbar had to be exact. He allowed no close enough, because before God, carelessness is also a kind of pride. Oholiab worked on the curtains. Cherubim were embroidered with precision and reverence. The blue was not too loud, the purple not too showy, the scarlet not turned into a stage. Beauty here had to serve holiness. Once a young craftsman tore a piece of fabric. His face went pale. He thought he had ruined everything. But Oholiab did not shout. He only looked at him and said,
It's right that you fear, but don't let fear make you quit. We will mend it. And next time you will sew more slowly.
Then he placed a hand on the young man's shoulder. God doesn't only give skill, he also teaches the heart. The work moved toward the part that made everyone's heartbeat change the ark of the covenant. Bezalel touched the gold, overlaid the wood, fashioned the mercy seat, and set the two cherubim facing one another. This was not decoration. This was the center of holiness where the covenant words would be kept. That night, after the camp had fallen asleep, Bezalel still sat alone under an oil lamp, sharpening his carving tools. Oholiab came near and asked,
Do you ever fear that we will do all of this and God still won't want to dwell among us?
Bezalel stopped, stared at the small flame.
I don't dare be certain about human hearts, but I dare be certain about His word. He commanded the building. If He commanded it, then He has not abandoned us.
Then we will keep doing it exactly, and let God decide the rest.
Day after day, each piece took its place, like notes returning to the right position in a song. Every detail completed was one step away from the golden calf and one step toward presence. When everything was finished, Moses inspected it all. He looked closely, touched, measured, asked again. And Scripture records a sentence like a seal of approval. Moses examined all the work. They had done it just as the Lord commanded. In the sense of Exodus 39:43, on the day the tabernacle was set up, the entire camp stood around it like a silent sea of people, not to admire beauty, but to wait and see. Would God truly come down? Bezalel and Oholiab stood among the craftsmen, two artisans whose hands had once trembled with fear, now empty because the work was done. Moses stepped back. The desert still had wind, sand still drifted, but inside the camp, everything went still. Then, what no human could make happen happened. The cloud covered the tent of meeting, and the glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle. Exodus 40:34. In that moment, it was as if the desert itself softened, not because the sun dimmed, but because hearts had submitted. Bezalel looked at the cloud throat tightening. Oholiab stood beside him, voice trembling, able to say only one sentence.
He has accepted it.
Bezalel answered quiet but certain.
He is still with us.
And in that instant, a nation remembered that grace is not God, pretending they never sinned. Grace is God stepping into their midst, even though they sinned in order to lead them back. There are golden calves that aren't made of metal. They can be a habit, a fear, a compromise repeated until we call it normal. And then what we fear most is not punishment, but the feeling that God will leave. But this story whispers something very deep. God does not only break what is wrong, He also shows what is right. He calls by name. He places His Spirit upon ordinary hands. He heals through daily faithfulness, through exactly according to the pattern, through rebuilding what we damaged. Grace is not God ignoring the calf. It is God returning with a pattern, a presence, and a way back. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to Fidelia Bible Stories. Comment, "Guide me, Lord," if you want God to lead you back to the right way.